Hello to everyone and welcome. This is our last session of our webinar cycle. As you remember, we are addressing controlled environmental agriculture. My name is Claudia Costa. I'm the director of Food4Sustainability Academy, and it's indeed a great pleasure to moderate these webinars that I see as an entry point to knowledge, innovation, and above all, community building. And for those that have been here with us, let me to remind you that over the past weeks, we have followed a journey of nutrients through control environment agriculture systems. If you remember, we first looked at how Ampliaqua connects fish, plants, and microalgae in a controlled environment, specifically transforming wastewater into a resource instead of using wastewater as a liability. Then, last week, we delved deeper in water and microbes. We were exploring how tools and microalgae-based technologies can turn effluents into biofertilizers and biostimulants that are critical pieces to regenerate soils and also very important to close nutrient loops. And today, we have arrived at the final step of this chain, bioponic herbs as circular agriculture solution, what they mean for our health, for our plates, and of course, for the environment. At Food for Sustainability, you know that this is a topic that sits at the crossroad of our main infrastructures, the Regenera Lab, our soil health and function laboratory, where we analyze soil health and microbiome functions. Also, Ampliaqua, and if you're still curious about knowing a little bit more about Ampliaqua, let me remind you that we have open days for you. All that you need to do is to register. All the information is available on our website, and it will be a pleasure from our end to receive you and to welcome you at Ampliaqua, which is our onshore integrated multi-trophic aquaculture and aquaponic model that provides the nutrient-rich water for bioponic production. Also, at the Aidanha Rural Food Park, we have the opportunity to bring together these ideas. These ideas are tested in real value chains that go from production and processing to the final market. So, and with us today to explore this topic, we have three remarkable speakers, which I'll very shortly introduce to you. So we have a chef to start with, Joana Duarte. She's a chef that was trained at the Hoffman School. Joana is also the founder of Rota das Algas, and Joana will show how bioponic herbs and marine ingredients can be translated into inspiring dish, but also very important, communicate ocean literacy and sustainability. Thank you so much, Joanna, for joining. Next, we'll
Thank you.
also we'll also have Joana, this time Joana Silva. She's the head of biotechnology at Arborea, and Joana will bring the biotechnology perspective, explaining to us how large-scale microalgae cultivation and also photosynthetic technologies can support a more sustainable ingredients and integrated all with bioponic systems. Joana, it's also a pleasure to have you here. And finally, we have Catarina Vasconcelos. She's a nutritionist and she's also a researcher here at Food for Sustainability. And Catarina will connect these innovations to nutrition, public health, and food policy. So, asking the question how circular production models can actually promote healthier dietary patterns. Um, Catarina cannot join us today. Unfortunately, she had an accident, so she's at the doctor today. So join me here to wish all the best to Catarina. But Catarina very kindly provided us a video, so we will follow Catarina through a video. But we also have the pleasure to have with us Rita Diaz, that is available to answer any follow-up questions you might have about the products that are coming from these bioponic systems at the port of Nazaré. So I hope that these presentations will help you to see how gastronomy, biotechnology, and nutrition can converge in controlled environment agriculture to deliver flavor, health, and of course, lower environment impact. So I hope that you enjoy the session that we've prepared for you today. Just before we kickstart, some house rules. Let me remind you that these webinars are recorded. So if by any chance you're not comfortable with this, I kindly ask you to switch your cameras off. Questions are very welcomed and encouraged. Remember that the questions that you address to the speakers sometimes are eye-opening to the rest of the audience, because you bring your own perspective, and this might be something that the others and ourselves have not considered. So please use the chat here through Teams or the chat in Slido to raise your questions. And also to remind you that at the end of the session, we have prepared a short quiz for you. And this quiz is actually to test your knowledge, for you to have a little bit of fun also after our session. But of course, for some of you, also very important is to get a certificate from your presence here in the session, and that you have actually learned some of the fundamentals that we are trying to bring to you. Okay? So let's again move to something that is very dear to us. Let's warm up with Slido. Let's see what the team has prepared for us. You know how to join Slido by now. You can use the um, QR code if you are on a mobile. This is probably the easiest for you, but if you are on a PC, eventually you can use the browser in your PC and just search for the site, the Slidos. Sophia has kindly put it here. So I'll just give you some time. I also acknowledge the team behind these webinars that make all this possible. So, you know, Sophia, she's already sharing the Slido for you, but also acknowledging Soraya, that relentless also ensures that everything runs smoothly. Dimitra, she's based in Greece, and Sylvia, she's also very attentive to all the technical details, ensuring that we have a smooth session. So thank you, girls, for your assistance. Let me know if you are ready to jump into Slido. Let's see what we have here, what Sophie has prepared for us. I also invite our guests to jump into Slido. So the first question is trying to test your knowledge. If you know, what do humans actually eat the most from the ocean? So is it salmon and tuna, shrimps and prawns, seaweeds, or is it mussels and oysters? So salmon, shrimps, seaweeds, mussels. Okay, I will give you some time. So salmon and tuna is for sure. In my place, there's definitely salmon and tuna that we eat the most. But is it really globally what is most eaten from the ocean? Keep voting. Salmon and tuna, they are premium fin fish, and they get the fame for sure, but represent under 10% of the global aquaculture volume. So it's not salmon and tuna. Let's turn to shrimp and prawns. Shrimps lead many markets and are around 20% of the aquaculture volume. So although a high percentage, they don't get the top of the charts. So it's not shrimps and prawns. Mussels and oysters and seaweeds. Let's check. Shellfish have a percentage around 15 to 20% of the global aquaculture volume. So these mean that the correct answer is seaweeds. Surprising, isn't it? So seaweeds, they dominate marine aquaculture at over 50% of production, and this is mainly farmed in Asia, both inshore and onshore, and this far outpaces wild caught equivalents. So things like, the sushi noris or the miso soup, or even emerging trends such as seaweed butter for steaks, feta dips, and burger patties. I'm sure Joana will tell us more about what's coming in the menu from seaweeds. Okay, thank you so much. Great question. So now let's turn to microalgae and proteins. So how protein rich can microalgae actually be? So let's make some comparisons with vegetables that are around 18%, with legumes such as chickpeas and peas, which are around 25%, high protein foods, 39%, or, microalgae can actually be put at the same level as supplements. Okay? Give you some time to think, make your bets. So let's look into vegetables. So vegetables such as leafy greens, and they are at around 18% of proteins. They make great sides, particularly for vitamins. But the truth is that vegetables fall short when we need muscle repairs. And in this case, we need higher demands of protein power. So it's not vegetables. Shall we have a look into legumes? Legumes, we are talking about things such as lentils, and we are talking about a percentage around 25% of proteins, and they definitely help with the daily protein. Yet, legumes, they fall short when athletes need rapid recovery, or when we're talking about the older population that face frailty, diabetes, or heart diseases. And in these cases, there is a higher demand in terms of proteins. So it's also not legumes. Now we have supplements or high protein foods. This is a close tie. So while protein supplements hit 52%, roughly 52%, and they go from power shakes and bars, what they do, they strip away microalgae's full nutrient synergies, particularly with vitamins, the omegas, and the bioactives. So it's not such a complete food. So the best match here is high protein foods with around 39% of protein. So what we are saying is that microalgae are competing with foods such as chicken breast, eggs, or even lentils, because they can deliver all essential amino acids and in a sustainable way. Because, as you know by now, microalgae thrive in waste streams, so they actually cut land use, for example, when we compare with soya beans or even beef. Okay, so high protein foods is something that it's equivalent to microalgae. We can say that microalgae is indeed a super food. Great, well done, guys. We have one more question. Yes, we do. So what makes bioponics a circular agriculture solution? So what is innovative in bioponics so that we can say that we are actually dealing with circular agriculture solution? Because bioponics replaces water with soil, because it uses seawater instead of fresh water, because it eliminates the need for nutrients, or because it transforms waste into nutrients. Okay, so give you a little bit more time to think in the room? Come on, guys. I know there are more of you there to vote. So, unlike hydroponics, which relies on synthetical mineral salts, bioponics biologically mineralize organic waste into plant nutrients. Okay, so the answer, it replaces water with soil. It's not correct because bioponics is fully soilless and water-based. Okay, so it's based on water. Um, while some systems can actually handle saline water, that's actually secondary. So it's use seawater instead of fresh water. It's not correct. Then we had a question, it eliminates all the needs for nutrients. No, nutrients are still essential. And you are absolutely right. The defining feature is it transforms waste into nutrients. Again, let me remind you, we are talking of nutrients like nitrogen that is achieved through nitrification, phosphorus, potassiums, and this can be achieved from fish effluents, also from algae biomass, and in this way creating a true closed loop circularity. So well done, you got the correct answer. And with this, it's my pleasure to start today's session, and I will give the floor to our first speaker, Joana Duarte. Thank you. You need to open your microphone, Joana.
Sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you so much to everybody that is coming today. I'm going to share my presentation. I'm sorry, I have to open this. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. We saw your presentation. We know that your presentation is there, so take your time, Joana.
I think you
Yeah,
can see now, no?
yes, not in
Okay.
presentation mode, but we have your presentation. It's perfect now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. So I'm going to thank you so much for being here today and to have some time to listen what I'm sharing today. So I'm a marine biologist and also a chef, and I created a project 3 years ago that is called Rota das Algas, and this is a little bit what I've done until today and the need that I found to integrate science, essentially gastronomy, and then at the same time the need of giving um, some sustainable basis to the community in general, especially the gastronomic sector, and also connecting them with our coastal heritage. So I'm going to make a short presentation about me. Actually, I have a degree in marine biologist, and then I took a master in oceanography. And also I have a degree that I took some years later in Barcelona, like Claudia told before. Um, in the first time of my life, I worked when I finished the degree in marine biologist. I took the degree in the Portuguese Institute IPL, Instituto Politécnico de Leiria, and then I started to work as with a fellowship in IPMA. I was working for 3-4 years with the team of the pelagics, specifically with sardines and anchovy stocks. So I worked in the boats with the fishermen, then a lot of work on based in the laboratory with the statistical treatment of the data. And at the end, we made all the calculations to figure out how much could Portugal and Spain catch each year related with these two species. After this, I decided to change a little bit my life. I had like I was feeling a little bit saturated, and I decided to take culinary arts. And I went to Barcelona. It was a decision um, full of a lot of reasons that we don't need to speak here. So I decided to move to Barcelona. And then because I was in the city, and this was 20 years ago, one of the main spots about the gastronomic innovation, I was working with a lot of teams, including the teams that came from Ferradria, that were really used to work with molecular gastronomy and all these innovations. It was a really amazing experience. And then I come back to Portugal 5 years later. I was thinking in spending 1 year, and then I come back to Portugal, and I worked in multiple concepts in Barcelona, also Michelin stars restaurants, and also in Portugal, and including fine dine restaurants. But I need some change, and after COVID, and I decided to reduce a little bit the amount of hours I was working. I was working something like 14, 16 hours a day. I really like this kind of heavy work in terms of hours, but I decided to reduce a little bit. And then I decided to catch some anemone in the intertidal zone to cook, because this is a really good dish that they have in Spain, but we don't catch anemone in Portugal. When you go to the intertidal zone, you see also the seaweed. And that's why I was starting to be really curious about seaweed, especially macro seaweed, of course, because it's the one that we can see in the intertidal zone. And some of them I recognize from the kitchens, but the majority was like completely unknown for me. And I decided to study. And the more I studied, the more I understood that we should know a little bit about biochemical, food biochemic, about the chemical of the substance that some seaweeds have, like the alginates, the hydrocolloids. And I figured out that sometimes it was a challenge to cook this. But I decided that probably we should know a little bit more about this marine resource that we have. And then the more I went to the intertidal zone, I also understand that we must respect this ecosystem because it's super fragile. And nowadays I have a different narrative that I had in the beginning, like we should use macro seaweeds from recommended agriculture companies or from certified collectors. So some points that I really think it was important. This is especially the information. This is very, very simple, but this is information that I share with the gastronomic sector, with chefs, with cooks, and everybody that wants to try to create unusual plates and dishes with seaweeds. So the need and the need that we must have to know the crucial role of the macro seaweeds in the climate warming and the restoration of the oceans. Um, Sorry, I cannot move my presentation. I don't know what's happening. Sorry. I don't know what's happening.
No, we have your presentation from our end. We can get
Okay.
it ready.
Okay, let me see. You can see now. Okay.
Yes.
So second point, I was also it's very interesting because we use seaweeds for millions of years, for thousands of years, excuse me. And but basically, the Asian countries are the biggest consumers of seaweeds nowadays, and they are also the biggest producers. At the same time, they have a really interesting nutritional profile. Of course, this depends a lot about the seaweed, the season, and the challenge that they represent for the people that work in the kitchen, especially in the Occidental countries, because we are not used to use too much seaweed, and the sushi, it's a young type of cuisine that we now have. It's available for us, but it's recent in Occidental countries. Also, the importance of the seaweeds in the multi-trophic aquaculture systems, and I explained this a little bit more with more detail when I'm speaking with chefs, and they are really interesting because sometimes this is a cycle that we can also use the fish, and it's I usually give the example of Alga Plush, for example, what they are doing in Aveiro. Also, that we have a legislation, a really, really old legislation that that was considering the seaweed, the seaweed collection or harvesting in Portugal, but not to use like a food, but like a biofertilizer, and also a lot of the potential uses of seaweeds. I think this is important information to give, especially to the gastronomic sector, besides um, the food or the superfood or the novel food that we have in our hands. I give this example, like I told, Alga Plus. I visit them. I like very much the concept, and I also believe in what they are doing, and they have all the certifications, and of course it's not the only one in Portugal. Recently, I last year I met Green CoLAB also. Now I'm speaking with sea expert. They don't cultivate, they harvest, but good national companies. So I create in this. Oh, we did all this information. I became to realize that a lot of chefs speak with me asking for details, for info. Everybody's really interesting and they have curiosity about seaweeds. And I decided to create this project, especially because two big friends of mine that work in the kitchen for a lot of years, they also told me this is important for us because we don't know in the kitchen how to use these. We don't know the companies that produce or harvest the seaweeds and sell them. So this is important to know. And I decided to create the Rota das Algas project. It's basically an ocean literacy exercise where I want to connect people with the seaweed world and give them some sustainable ideas on how to cook them, how to buy them, which are the best providers, producers, and also if they want to come with me to the intertidal zone to know what we have, what's the Portuguese seaweeds, if we can use this definition, and how to use them in the kitchen. So this is an example. People come with me. We don't harvest too much because I don't allow it. I'm really protector of the environment, and the more I go to the intertidal zone, the more I notice we must protect this. These are fragile zones, so the main idea is just to connect people with the place, with the species, and they They catch a little bit, they taste them in the local, but then I drive people to buy from good sources. It's amazing the amount of species that we have in the kitchen. It's amazing also that most of them we don't know yet how to cook them properly. And here are some examples of what we do in the kitchen nowadays. And these are some photos from some pop-ups or dinners that I made with colleagues. So this is a reinterpretation of the lava bread that we also have in Azores, pataniscas de erva patinha. So we use porphyra or ulva. In this case, we use ulva. Porphyra eats nori, and ulva eats lettuce of the sea. Another example where we use porphyra, nori, ulva, lettuce of the sea, and also fukush, sea bean, and with some fishes and shrimps and I think it's oyster also. Raw fish with a Portuguese salad with flowers of cauliflower, and they became amazing with the seaweed. The mayo that you can see on the photo is also made with seaweed. In this case, is the truffle one. This is we have to catch this one in the nature. It's not amazing to catch the seaweed because she's really tiny. So harvesting the seaweed, these species in particular, it's always a damage action. We are always damaging the seaweed, but becomes really tasty. So a lot of photos. This is the Atlantic nori, the porphyra. Goes amazing, this type of plates you can use in everything. Some of the chefs only have this seaweed available in the dry form, what is a pity because when it's fresh it's amazing the flavor. We can do a lot of things. We can use with eggs, with butters. The animal fat with seaweeds pairs really well. Also the sea lettuce. This is the rigida on the rock, but usually I catch the intestinalis and the linearis also. You can use basically in salads, in soups. I like very much in the bread. Goes really well. Also, we've made some croissants with the lettuce of the sea and goes amazing. Codium, I think this is the most known or the most consensual. It's for me the less interesting seaweed because I cannot do too much things with this seaweed except using in mayos, in soups, and eventually on a rice. But dry it's horrible because it takes a lot of time, has a lot of water, and the remaining codium after drying completely it's a short quantity. But we can use, I use essentially on salads. Bladder rack, Fucus spiralis. This is one of my favorites. I also use the seaweed on pickles, goes really well, and in desserts, especially in panna cotta, in some crumbles when it's dry. And also the fucus, because it's a brown one. When we give some heat, when we boil gently this seaweed for 1-2 minutes, we lose the fucoxanthin and we have the chlorophyll C. So it gets really green, and for the clients is like a game changer on the plate. It's like, oh, the color is changing, and everybody gets really amazed with this. And we create the desire of eating the seaweed, because sometimes the problem is some people feel a little bit afraid to they are a little bit afraid of tasting seaweeds. This is a corriza, the one that we have in Portugal in the summer, a seasonal one. goes amazing smoky. If you smoke the seaweed and then it goes really, really, really amazing. Also, you can do pickles, putting salads. Sometimes I use it like a red pepper on an octopus salad. And at the end, I create this project just to finish Porto de Pesca. It's an event that happens in traditional fishing ports in Portugal, and the idea is doing a event, a one-day event with a small, um, not a foraging but a identification walk in the intertidal zone. Then a community. We share. A meal with the fishermen and the community in general that they must made an inscription, and we share a lot of information with scientists, with the fishermen. We talk also. We make some expositions with artists that have books, for example, published with the fishermen that catch the seaweed in Portugal, especially the community that catches the agar-agar in São Martinho do Porto. And we share knowledge between the fishermen and the community in general. This year, sorry, this year we are going to do this event again in 3 fishermen ports, probably Risaira, Sesimbra. We are in negotiations, and Azanha do Mar near Brejão. Again, we will do again this year. And thank you so much. And I apologize for my English not so perfect. Sorry.
It
Thank
was
you.
brilliant. Thank you so much, Joana. And what a delicious dishes you've shown us, and also those images of the coastline. I think everyone resembles and feel that this is part of our culture. So thank you so much. It was really interesting. I just have here two questions, Joana, because time flies here in our corner. So one question asks for you to give a definition of gastronomy. And I found this question interesting because is gastronomy going beyond the stricter definition that we have what gastronomy is? What is gastronomy for you, Joana?
For me, it should be the connection between the technique to make food that we can eat and can give us some pleasure. At the same time, the art of serving people and being the hospitality side. And I think a third important point should be the knowledge about the place we are doing the food and the people that we are serving. Sometimes we are really disconnected between the place we are, the territory, the products that we have in our land, and we are using sometimes products that came aboard or from the other side of the world, and with no connection with the environment where we are. And it's very important also the storytelling, and I think gastronomy more than ever today we are really into this. We need a storytelling. We need a story to support what we are serving to the client. And this is also service. This is also hospitality. This is also bring people to this place, to this area, connecting them with what they are eating. And this needs this needs training. We need to train chefs, cooks, and also the people that is serving, the manager, the hospitality director, for example, of one restaurant. We
That's
need a
very
connect.
interesting, Joanna. So it's much more than
Sorry.
just eating
Yeah.
or cooking. It's actually about art and culture and identity, and also
Hmm.
sharing about traditions
And
and
tradition.
local knowledge. So thanks for bringing in that perspective. There's also another interesting question, and I had this in mind. So it's why these things haven't spread more. So seaweeds, why are they still so? They are often seen as a niche or something exotic, especially here in the Western markets. Do you think that this should stay as it is for the gourmet market, or do you think it has a broader appeal to go mainstream, like for example, salmon did?
Hmm. Uh, I think we still have a path to walk in the area of the how the seaweed can get more popular. Um, the first approach, for sure, must be done by the known chefs, and the democratization of the seaweed in the kitchen, for example. They must be the first ones, the protagonists of this movement. But for that, we need to show them what is possible. We need to show them also the option of using fresh seaweeds. This is a huge limitation, because the dry seaweeds are not really interesting in terms of using in the kitchen. They are limited. Sometimes they don't have flavor. For example, they don't have texture. The texture for us, it's really important. When I rehydrated. I'm sorry, too much age. Rehydrated seaweeds. Um, we lose the texture, and we lose, because we usually put fresh water. We lose the the original flavor. And sometimes a lot of chefs came to me and speak with me and told me, because I bought 5 different species, all dry, then I made these, I made a puree, I made a butter, but not too much flavor on this. And I understand. Um, but sometimes it's the only way to use them. Exception made for leches of the sea and codium that are really strong, and even dry, we can use them and feel the taste. But I think we are going in the right direction, because they are trying to implement it, now seaweeds on the schools, on some diets. I think also this work must be done with full knowledge of the nutritional profile of some seaweeds, because of the content of iodine, and because sometimes we are putting products on the market, and we must be aware of, if we are doing this correctly. Sometimes I'm a little bit afraid of that, but
Joanna, thank you so much. Those are
sorry.
great insights from
Okay.
so get to know the ingredients, get to know how to cook them, be aware of the nutrient profile of microalgae. So we have a long path, but a promising one to move forward. Thank you so much, Joanna. There are people that want to follow your projects on social media, so if you can just have the links here for people to be close to what you are doing, we would appreciate. But now time is flying, so we need to move on. Now we have Joana Silva. Let's take, attack now and let's go into biotechnology. Joana, whenever you want, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be near different approaches concerning algae. If you could put the slide.
We can see the slides, Joana. Can you see the slide?
Yeah, just go to the first one, please. Yeah. Okay, so starting from my background, first slide.
Can you move forward one slide? Yeah, thank you.
So basically, I'm head of biotech in Arborea. Arborea is located in Moita, near Lisbon. I have a BSc in microbiology, then I take a master in biology and neuroscience in Coimbra, and a PhD in Catholic University in biotech. I'm working with algae since more than 20 years ago. I already worked in almost all the macroalgae companies in Portugal. And basically, my job has been related with research and development, also with production and downstream processing, as well as scale-up and industrialization. I was also part of the initial work with ProAlga, that is an association for algae producers in Portugal, and also Green CoLAB. So if you don't mind to proceed. Just going back to the question algae, so algae are divided in two. Also, as Joana told, that was focused in macroalgae or seaweeds. They are very well known almost for everybody, because near the summer we see them in the beach. So they are multicellular. They have a format, can be big or smaller. Normally they have a color, and that color is related with the pigments and the high value the algae have, also concerning their capacity. Just focus on the value. Macroalgae are mainly rich in minerals and carbohydrates. Of course, also have lipids, but compared with microalgae, it's not big quantities, and proteins, but again, not as the microalgae capacity. So proceeding to microalgae slide, please. Yeah, those are unicellular, so we are not able to see them by our eye. They are also photosynthetic, and normally people know them by calling them phytoplankton. They usually grow in suspension, so basically what we see, it's a lagoon that is green or that is red, and that's it. More than that, it's difficult to see via our eye. Why they are important? They are very, very rich in protein. They can achieve 70 grams per 100 grams concentration. They are also very rich in lipids that are important, not just for human, but other people, like other fields like the animal fields, that are based on omega-3, 6, and 9. They are also a source of vitamins, minerals, and free amino acids. So if you'll proceed, next slide. And trying to see why or where they are similar, and this is a work that I have been doing during these 20 years. Basically, both, they do not compete with arable land for agriculture. They have high aerial productivity. They can be used to do CO2 sequestration. We have a lot of species. Joana started to discuss some of them. And that also says that a variety of products are able to be achieved. Since they are very well known and use it to produce a wide range of bioproducts and also energy. They can be used for different applications. Some of them also Joana spoke before. This is similar for macro and micro. They can be integrated with other processes, and Joana also speak about Algae Plus. I will speak soon about that process. Also with aquaculture, also for CO2 emission sequestration, not just CO2 but also gas emission. They can also be integrated in water treatment. Also in animal water treatments, fermentation streams. So the capacity of this kind of systems to be integrated in bioprocesses is huge. They can be cultivated. When they are cultivating, they are able to use nutrients for other sources. And concerning the economic, here it's the big challenge. We are not there yet. A lot of things need to be optimized since the costs of production are still prohibitive in some cases and very mature. Next slide, please. Concerning microalgae production, so the production of micro depends on the scale we want to achieve. Also depends on the environment we have nearby and on the nutrient strategy that we want to apply to the reactors. It's possible to grow microalgae in open and closed systems. Open systems, I think you already saw, even in the slide from Food4Sustainable, where you have your installations. So basically, they are raceways or even circular ponds. They have a low capex, but either we put it on a controlled environment or the contamination risks are high. Concerning closed systems like PBRs, green walls, and fermenters, it is better to control concerning the biotechnology approach. Even the process is better to control, but the capex is higher than open systems, and normally they are used to produce added value biomass or added value biocompounds. A characteristic of this biomass is that they are able to grow with CO2 and light, and that is the photosynthesis that we are usually that we know. But they are also able to grow in mixotrophic pathway, which means that it is with light and a carbon source like glucose, for instance. And they are also able to grow in heterotrophic pathway, that is just with glucose, for instance, and no light available. This makes microalgae very promising concerning mainly capacity and quantity. Here you see some examples of companies located in Portugal. This is the case of All Micro, the large and huge photobioreactors, the PBRs. On your left part of the slide, on the right part, you also can see some of the raceways from Necton. Next slide. Concerning to macroalgae and going back to the case study of Algae Plus, that I agree with Joana is one of our best companies in Portugal, and it is in the roadmap of EMTA companies. Basically, they produce more than one strain of macroalgae. This is the case of Ulva. Ulva is produced since a single cell until the mature cells. And basically what they do in Algae Plus, the nutrients that are not used by the macroalgae, they use to feed the fish that are in those open raceways that you see in the image, and basically they have EMTA recycling nutrients where fish are fed and grow. They are all already in our supermarket, in some of our, when we go to buy, some of them are already produced in Algae Plus. And this also permits them to have organic certification, which is a must concerning the food market. Next slide. Well, but this is not so simple as it seems, because the challenges are basically what I want to explain you. So concerning the high capex, that it is what it is, we also have high running costs and also high energy consumption. This is basically related with the equipment and energy needs for to conduct equipments, and also for instance concerning the costs of the CO2 or the costs of the nutrients that needs to be used. So if we want to do a controlled production, everything is a cost. Concerning microalgae, for instance, to be profit in the end, and since they grow in suspension, it is a need to have a large scale to be profit. So this is again another challenge, because normally we like to start from little and to achieve bigger, but when it is related with microalgae, the best is go directly to the large scale. Also the current technology, it's difficult to extract more than one compound of one biomass or one cell. So either we use the cell as it is, the whole cell, or if we would like to use multiple products, the science and the proof of the concept is not mature enough. Also, we have lack of trained people, as you can imagine, but Portugal is in the roadmap, and our universities are getting better and better concerning this aspect. And also, Joana spoke a little bit about this. Concerning the commercialization, we start to have some problems like regulatory needs, the consumer acceptance. That's what also Joana discussed. And if we have a big range of products, what should be the best one? If you like to proceed, next slide. Going back to the topic that is hydroponic, if you look to the literature, and also to some case studies that are already starting to appear, this is an opportunity because it is possible to be applied in more modern agriculture. Also, algae are able to support the circular bioeconomy in agriculture. And how algae can work. So, per principle, algae function as biofertilizer or even as biostimulants, okay? This is why, because it's rich in NPK as a biofertilizer and also other compounds such as phytohormones, which can biostimulate the crop. Other than this, algae are more bioaccessible, meaning that improves the NPK intake to the crop, and the productivity and also the tolerance to other stresses are well known to be improved. So how can we integrate algae in hydroponic systems? So basically, algae can be added as a liquid medium to feed the plants, or even they can be used to recirculate the nutrients, and basically we can grow algae with the nutrients from the draining water, okay? Next slide. So, the gap. What is the gap? Why it is not still mature enough? Why we don't have scale-up of the process yet? So basically because we are still in the prototype fundamental analysis at this stage, and it is still need more information, more knowledge concerning to long-term field trials at commercial scale. Because if not, some clients or potential clients will always ask us, okay, but how can you prove that? Did you check everything? So they are very used to fundamental fertilizers, and when we try to implement a new thing, we need to have evidences already on field. Of course, it is an opportunity. Basically, we are facing a very climate changing that we don't control. Also, the actual world situation that daily we are listening that the biofertilizers are becoming an issue. So the opportunity exists. Concerning the strain, which strain should we invest? Basically here, each strain has its own behavior, so it needs to be optimized according to the needs of the crop, the productivity of the strain, microalgae strain we want to produce, and then decide which one to go. Concerning to the circular economy integration, this is a must because it's very easy to integrate hydroponic production with microalgae bioreactors, and the need to have scale and solutions. This is something that needs to start soon, in my opinion, of course, to achieve the market as up. And next slide. So this is just to show how could this be possible. Basically, you have the hydroponic crop zone where the crops are growing. So the drain effluent tank can take out the part that the crop is not using, which is still nutrients, and that can feed directly the reactors. That can be an open system, a closed system, whatever. So the algae or the cyanobacteria, in this case, I show you a prototype with microalgae, can grow directly in the bioreactor, that this biomass can either be used directly to the hydroponic system, or why not to take some value, and only after that the subproducts of that value can go to the hydroponic system. So it is a big world to invest time with this capacity of interrelation between both. Next slide. This is just for you to see one case study that is part of it is being done in Portugal. It is a European project, Realm. Basically, we have a Portuguese company that has a raceway that is being fed with the nutrients that the crops do not use, and that biomass is used then to give NPK to the same crops. In addition, another Portuguese company is using part of this biomass for feed, for animal feed. Okay, so just to show you that the TRL here, it's already 6 to 8, so it's already pre-commercialization, which is very good, and Portugal is looking to this very serious. Also concerning the academic papers, we start to hear a lot about this kind of approach. So if you also would like to know more, it's very interesting to see how the good result starts to appear. Next slide. Yeah, this is just to show you that companies like where I am today, we are able to use more optimized techniques. In this case, is a photobioreactor that has different materials than the ones that are more frequent to be seen, which can be more flexible concerning to some applications, namely to an integration to the hydroponic system. So this is just to put you thinking that, okay, we can look to hydroponic systems, we can look to raceways, but even we can look further and understand that at the same time, several companies are focusing the technology of algae production and to increase the productivity, to decrease the capex, and that will be also important to achieve a commercialization stage with the hydroponic system with algae in the middle. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Joana, and thanks for bringing some of the important aspects that we've been discussing throughout this cycle, some of the challenges, some of the things that we are also proposing to solve. I think a lot of the things that were mentioned here are also problems that are being addressed at our Ampliaqua with this integrated multi-trophic aquaculture system in the same raceway producing microalgae, fish, and vegetables. Thank you so much, Joana. It was a great presentation. Joana, I have a question here from biotech perspective. I'm quite interested to know how Arborea large-scale photosynthetic system makes the microalgae cultivation that you have addressed, this cultivation viable for food ingredients or even for biostimulants. So what's special here in the scaling out?
Yeah, so basically you are using to see a photobioreactor that is based in a given material. In Arborea, it is a membrane. Okay, it is a flexible membrane where the mass transfer happens all over the tube. So it is not just injected in the beginning. That membrane is able to permit the mass transfer all over the tube in the same percentage, in the same conditions. Basically, the idea is to mimetize our lungs. Okay, so if the lungs are able to do it, we need to find the best materials to do it. And we are being able to do it, basically, yeah.
Okay, so
the data we got so far are positive, yeah.
Okay, the question was, how big is this production currently?
Now, so we are, Moita is a demonstration facility, but we are scaling up to Alentejo, and there we will have the capacity to produce 250 tons in 1 year. So we are exactly in the industrialization phase.
Okay,
So in
very
1
good.
year and a half, a new facility will arrive. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Congratulations. Um, Joanna, another question. We have a question here from the chat. I had another question for you, but let's turn to the chat before. In the hydroponic cultivation of microalgae and tomatoes, for example, how can you deal with fouling biofilms and microbial imbalances?
Yeah. So the biofilms will appear only in the reactor. So people that produce algae basically have several ways to control the biofilm. The best one is always to have a health culture to avoid components that are, a trigger to biofilm accumulation. So per principle, we need always to have culture in exponential and healthy, okay? If the culture starts to reduce a little bit the velocity of growth and the biofilms start to appear, we have another way, like, increasing the velocity of the circulation. Or we need to restart the batch, So sometimes this is like operational decisions. This is concerning algae. Concerning the hydroponic system, the percentage of NPK, it's not, in my opinion, significant. So it will be diluted in the water because the percentage it's a volume that can be previous diluted or even put in the irrigation system. We just need to have careful that first the particles pass through the system, and secondly they don't create biofilm. And for that we need to pass water as up, and eventually in some cases we might need some cleaning procedures, which of course I know what you are thinking, it will increase water consumption, costs, and so on. But I don't know enough because I never tasted. So what I know is from my perspective that a washing step with water should be enough. If not, eventually some cleaning step, at least periodically, will be needed. Yeah.
Joanna, thank you very much. I have another question. Let's keep this question to the end because we have a presentation from Catarina that, as I mentioned, she can't be here, but she has carefully prepared the presentation for us. Let's just hear Catarina, and then I'll go back to the questions. Okay. So thank you very much. I will just ask the team to share Catarina's presentations. We can see, but not in a presentation mode. So let's see what's happening at Ampliaqua. Let's see also about
Hello
the fruits.
everyone, my name is Catarina Vasconcelos and it's a real pleasure to share with you today a small part of the Ampliaqua story and especially one product that is already emerging for this amazing circular production system. I'm sorry not to be there with you in person and live today, but some last minute challenges really made it impossible for me to be present. But I hope this can still be the beginning of a conversation and that we may have the opportunity to exchange ideas and continue to discuss at another moment. So today I would like to talk to you about how circular agriculture can move from science to actually bringing some value to our plates and the consumption part. So more specifically, how ingredients produced in circular systems, in this case, bioponic basil, can become a real product that people actually eat. So for that, I will present you part of the work, amazing work done by an amazing team from BGI and Food4Sustainability, developing the brand Tomorrow Greens. So the goal of this brand is exactly to not focus only on sustainable production, but translating these circular ingredients into foods that fit existing eating habits. So, because next slide, sorry, getting used to this record processing. So, do we really need circular agriculture? That's the question. And of course, we already know that food systems today sit at the center of several environmental challenges. As shown here, we know that food systems contribute to multiple planetary boundary pressures, including climate change, biosphere integrity, land systems change, freshwater change, and biogeochemical flows as nitrogen and phosphorus. So the question we face today is no longer simple how to produce more food, but how to produce food while reducing this systemic pressure on natural resources. And this is where circular agriculture becomes really relevant. But environmental pressures is not the only challenge food systems face. Food is also directly linked to human health, and globally, we know that poor diet is currently one of the leading risk factors for mortality. At the same time, we know that food systems are highly inefficient. So we know that 1/3 of all food produced globally is never eaten, and that means land, water, nutrients, and energy that are used without delivering actual nutritional value. So circular agriculture responds to this by trying to recapture this value across the food chain instead of allowing resources to leave the system as waste. Anyway, there is an important limitation that we need to highlight here that even the most efficient circular systems fails if the resulting foods are not accepted by the consumer, so are not finally eaten. And this is where the consumer dimension becomes critical. So when we look at European consumer data, sustainability is important, but it's not the main driver of food choice. The most important factors remain cost, taste, and food safety. So when we look at circular foods, we know that they cannot rely only on sustainability arguments. They must also remain familiar, affordable, and enjoyable to eat. To explore these challenges, Ampliaco emerged as a circular living laboratory for sustainable food production and is the system from where Tomorrow Green is developed. So Ampliaco is a pre-commercial R&D unit for innovation in sustainable food production, is a decoupled integration multi-trophic aquaculture system, so integrated several production systems within one research environment. This includes aquaculture, bioponic crop production, microalgae cultivation. So what makes these systems interesting is that production and ingredient valorization happen in the same space. Bioreactors support microbial processes. Aquaculture generates nutrient-rich water and edible fishes. Microalgae contribute to additional biomass and metabolic potential. And bioponics converts nutrients into edible crops. So the systems works almost like a controlled metabolism where outputs from one streams become inputs for another. And this is really important because the objective is not only production, but improving yield, growth, and resource efficiency, reducing the environmental footprint, of course. So this is real circular principles and circular systems put in practice. So from these great systems, we produce a very interesting crop, basil. So chemically, basil contains several bioactive compounds, especially rosmarinic acid with a great and good antioxidant activity. At the same time, its aroma profile, particularly compounds like linalool and eugenol, strongly influence the flavor of this crop and the perception of this of the flavor. This crop is also relevant because it's already deeply embedded in the Mediterranean food culture. So unlikely many sustainable ingredients, it does not require consumers to learn new eating behaviors, and it's a really familiar crop. Another interesting aspect is that under controlled production systems like Ampliaqua, basil's phytochemical profile can change and be adapted depending on the cultivar and cultivation conditions that we set. So after setting this scene and telling you all the benefits that these Ampliaqua systems can produce, producing basil and bioponic herbs, I am honored to present you our Tomorrow Greens pesto as a case study of value-added transformation. One challenge with basil is that it is highly perishable. So transforming it quickly into value-added products become really important. And this is where pesto becomes an ideal case study. Pesto can extend the usability, reduce fresh herb losses, and create ready-to-use food format products. At the same time, pesto and this kind of sauce can preserve much of basil's sensory and phytochemical identity, so it works really well both as a commercial product or an experimental formulation matrix that I will present you afterwards, the 4 formulations and testings that we have been doing. So Tomorrow Greens have nowadays 4 formulations. We have medium pesto, intense pesto, longevity, and longevity plus. So each formulation represents a slightly different design strategy. As basic ingredients, we have, of course, basil, olive oil, and almonds. And then we combine specific ingredients such as cheese, remaining closer to traditional pesto, or others such as thyme, turmeric, chia, goji berries, adding high antioxidant ingredients with a health and functional positioning. So I bring you here some photos on how the product was explored in practical context during cooking shows, fairs, tasting events, and I'm sure that Claudia already invites you to our events to have the real tasting experience. One advantage of pesto is that it integrates easily into familiar dishes, bread, fish, pasta, or other tasting formats. So this reduces the barrier for consumer adoption and acceptance that we have been talking lately. And people are not asked to adopt a completely new food. It's a really familiar one and very practically to introduce on our dishes. So we are having great acceptance, but however, I can be honest with you that developing circular food products always involve trade-offs. So ingredient sourcing, nutritional profile, sensory quality, food safety, and cost, they all interact with each other when we are developing new food products. We can have the most sustainable product with the best nutritional composition, but if it's not affordable and tasteful, consumer will not eat it or buy it. So circular food innovation is essential about balancing these multiple criteria at the same time. So reflecting on our product results, we have really encouraging and positive results. We can reflect, for example, on ingredient source. Tomorrow Greens ingredients came from bioponic, basil and turmeric, national or organic ingredients. Looking at the nutritional profile, the product shows a balanced nutritional profile with high levels of unsaturated fats, vitamin E, vitamin C, calcium, iron, and omega-3. And we also compare it with commercial pesto version, and it's actually a more healthy version as it contains less salt, less saturated fat, and less sugar. From a sensory perspective, overall acceptance was strong with about 85% positive evaluation across taste, aroma, and texture. And looking at cost, we know that this is a premium ingredient, premium product, so increase the production, but consumers indicated willingness to pay between 2.5 to 3.5 euros for an 80-gram product. So results are promising. We will continue developing these products of Tomorrow Greens, and these next steps will include enhancing the validation, do further nutritional and phytochemical analysis, market preparation, and development of new formulations and prototypes as, for example, fermented pesto. Here, fermentation is also an interesting and special innovation because we know that fermentation can improve the stability and increase the bioaccessibility of bioactive compounds that exists in basil and other ingredients. To conclude, I would like to leave you with 4 main messages. First, circular agriculture only creates impact when it connects with consumer relevant foods. Here we have shown our journey to create sustainable but also relevant, tasty, healthy products. And Tomorrow Green Pesto is one example of this. Second, systems like Ampliaqua show how living laboratories can link production, research, but also product development. So having the circular approach, putting in practice. Third, we also saw that basil illustrates a very familiar crop that can function as a circular function ingredient to then integrate in the pesto. And pesto finally demonstrates that circular food innovation can really be valuable and balanced, balancing multiple design criteria like sustainability, nutrition, flavor, and market viability. So I hope you have enjoyed it, and I have given you an overview of how this amazing system can work and deliver very interesting food products, bringing circular foods to today's plate. I'm happy to then discuss more about this topic and take your questions and conversations regarding this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Catarina. We definitely enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much. We are dying also to try this pesto, although we have tried and it's delicious. We now have, I will now just call to the floor Rita. Hello, Rita. And I guess Gonçalo is also
Hi.
here. Hello. Because we already have some questions for you, and one it's definitely, the most striking question. So, can we find Tomorrow Greens in the market yet?
Not yet. We're waiting for shelf life and other analysis results. We have to wait.
But at least we can try the products at our fairs, and for those that attend at Ampliaqua. Okay. Thank you so much. There was also some, I know that Catarina addressed this in her presentation, but Rita, can you just go through again what differentiates this bioponic pesto, Tomorrow Greens, from the conventional pesto products that we have in the market?
Yes, our pesto is special because it is sustainably produced using a system that recycle nutrients and water. And we do not use pesticides when we need to treat some pests or disease. We use biological solutions like microorganisms or some natural struts. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. So we are actually, as we were speaking earlier before, talking about, superfoods, and at least we can have this confidence that they are at least chemicals, synthetic chemicals free, which is already a strong reassurance for us. Rita, I know you've been very involved also with the development, and you are actually responsible for quality at Ampliaqua. We also have a question from Alice. She's wondering if there are any ideas about adding algae to the pesto. So will we have algae pesto?
For now, no, but we can try in future.
Well, we have Joana. She's a chef. We never know. If we have a partnership, Joana, what do you think about having a pesto made from algae?
I've made already. It's amazing. It's really good. Of course, you need always to add a little bit of basil because you identify pesto with that flavor profile, the basil flavor profile. But goes, I know it will work. Goes really well with basil and algae.
Okay, Joanna, what is your perception about the acceptance of kind of more traditional ingredients or foods or dishes that are replaced by ingredients such as microalgae?
Sorry, that are
Are
the
replaced. So no, we are replacing a traditional ingredient by microalgae, like in this
Mhm.
case of pesto, replacing basil for a microalgae.
I think the consumer more than ever is really open to changing the ingredient in a traditional plate or combination of ingredients like sauces, like hummus, mustard. For example, the tomato sauce that now Compal release with the fukush. I know a lot of people that is trying now this. So people is really open mind. Uh, they are always trying to search the algae flavor in these kind of things. A lot of people told me, "Oh, the tomato sauce doesn't taste like algae," because they are searching for this. So people, it's more and more open mind to feel these different flavors in the traditional products.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joanna, also from your, biotech perspective, this is something that you also experience more demand from consumers food production for algae.
Yes, absolutely. For instance, we also develop a pesto. This is everything. It's normal to happen, and to eat a pesto or a tomato juice, as Joanna told. It's easy for people to understand how to put in their daily cuisine. Um, the food market, it's a difficult market, okay? Because we need to give information, we need to explain how to work, we need to give literacy, we need to work on consumer acceptance. So again, it's not just producing algae, we need to do all the work, with the value chain.
Yes, yeah,
Even the
exactly.
supermarkets.
It's a
Yeah,
good point because this is what Rita was referring to. So the pesto is being delayed because we are
yeah,
forced to have some procedures before and regulatory
exactly.
issues before we enter the market. That's absolutely true.
Yeah,
Just briefly, let's just remind me the participants that before they leave, if they want to get a certificate, this is the QR code. Okay, so you can fill in while we enter the final stage of our discussions. And I have also a question that hanged here, Joana Silva. So, what is the nutrition you use for the propagation of algae, and what about micronutrients and circularity?
Yeah, I saw that question. I don't understand very well what the question means, but to grow algae, algae are also, let's say, a crop, and they need nutrients like a source of nitrogen, a source of phosphate. They need a lot of iron, magnesium, because it's related with photosynthesis. They need trace elements. There is a medium formulation that we develop, and that formulation is designed for high productivity rates. That's our mission, exactly as in the agriculture. And basically, the algae grow and consume the nutrients. When it's consumed, we add more, we harvest, we maintain the stoichiometry of the nutrients and the cells, and this is how we do it on a daily routine.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know if I answered to the question.
Yeah, well, we're not sure. I'm not sure if this question also points to the reuse of the micronutrients that
The
are released
reuse,
by,
yes, concerning the reuse, sorry to interrupt you. The
of course.
reuse, we need to, the water that needs to be recirculated, we need to, is, exactly what we have there, so it must be characterized. Ideally should be consistent. And basically what we do after is we supplement this nutrition if there is some lack of nutrient that is mandatory for algae to grow.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Thank you for that explanation. We are approaching the end of our webinar. I just have a question for our chef here in the room, Joana, before you go. I'm very, very curious about your recommendation. So, if those that are at home and they want to use algae into stunning dishes, what would be one simple way to encourage home cooks? Which ingredient would you advise, at home to change in a classic recipe and to use instead microalgae?
I think the easiest one is rice. Make a rice with seaweeds, and we no fear with no fears about the quantity. Think about seaweed can be like if it was a coriander or a spinach that we put on the rice, and we cook the rice with this. In sometimes people ask me in what is the phase of the cooking that I should had the seaweeds. No matter in the beginning of doing a dish with rice, at the end, like if it was sparkling the seaweed in the rice, wherever it goes really well, and you will feel a little bit the flavor, the power of the seaweed. And I think it's the first and the most simply approach.
It's a brilliant advice. Okay, we'll go for it definitely. Thank you so much. We are really approaching the end of our webinar. Just before we go, let me remind you that this is the last session of Controlled Environment Agriculture. I hope that you have enjoyed the session that we brought to you, and the topics and the perspectives that we have addressed throughout these 3 sessions. We're going to take a short break. We're going also to enjoy Easter, but we'll come back on the 16th of April this time. And, this cute sheep is already looking at us, but invite us to rethink livestock here as an important play in terms of ecology, and also addressing some of the imbalance for the real world systems. And let's see how the economics sum up by integrating livestock in our daily activities. So I hope that you can join us. We will be here, so we will reconvene again on the 16th of April. From me and on behalf of the team, I can say it was a pleasure to host these webinars. It's always a pleasure to have you here, to see great speakers having such an interesting project and so passionate about the topic. So from me and the team, we wish you you all a very happy Easter, and hopefully we'll see each other mid-April. It was a pleasure. Bye bye. Thank you.